Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. We're here with Ashley Hicks, Kyle Schrum, and Joe Courtney. What's up, everybody?
Hey.
I did it this week. Last week, I was like, no, not all at once. And now we did. All right. I don't have a lot of updates other than, hey, we're 1 week into publishing a lot of podcasts. I hope everybody out there is enjoying all this new content. And if you want to be a part of the conversation, you can go to garagegymathlete.com/AMA and you can at least be a part of that. And killingcomfort.com. Go there and you will be notified about my next book. Those are the things that I have to announce. Other than that, I'm going to go to Joe, man. How's life? How's the week? How's everything?
Life is busy. That's in short. We're killing it with all this content we're going on, but I get the wife is deploying later on this week. I'm going somewhere as well right after that for about a week, and things are busy. But I can run fast again, so that's fun. That's great. I was back to playing lacrosse over the weekend. Did some full out sprints a few times, though I didn't try all that hard, and even though I could have. But and then I did the mile run yesterday. I'm on Hard to Kill. We had 2 1-mile runs, and I might have pushed it a little bit too hard on that. My hamstrings are a bit sore from those runs, but it still felt decent to run a bit fast again.
Nice.
Be careful. Not too much too fast. You're not back to normal yet.
Yeah, I'll still be smashing my hamstring with the lacrosse ball, which feels terrible, but it does good things. And I still go to PT and I'll tell them what's going on, and they'll do whatever they need if they need to.
Massage you.
Yeah. Insurance massage.
Let's be real.
Kyle, how's life?
Life is good. My update is our 1-year-old is walking now, which is
awesome.
A lot of fun.
So it's a scary stage. The wobbly stage is a little scary.
Yeah. Well, she actually has recovered from that pretty quickly. It took her a while to actually start walking, but now that she's walking, she's kind of just blazing through it and doing a really good job. So now we have 2 to keep up with, where she was, when they're in the crawl stage, you can pretty much kind of contain them. But now, yeah. And
so you have a boy and a girl.
Yeah. And our boy is 3 and he just runs everywhere. And so that's kind of her example is run everywhere. And so that's kind of what she's learning. And so now we're getting our exercise.
Who walked first in terms of in their own life age? You know what I mean?
I don't know that.
You don't?
I have no idea.
That would be a mom question.
Well, I know when all of my children walked, just saying.
Wow. I did not keep track of that. I would say
it's not a competition, Jared.
I would say it's probably her.
The only reason I think about it more is because Eleanor, my only daughter, I have 2 boys, walked slightly later than both of my boys. So I'm just wondering if that's a normal thing or not.
Yeah,
she's way smarter given the age. Like seriously, she can say like she's almost speaking in sentences. She's really, really smart, but didn't walk as early as my boys. So I just was wondering if that's more of like a genetic thing or just my kids, just curious, just making conversation. I'm sorry. Ashley.
Well, I'll try a little harder for the Dad of the Week award next year.
Right. All right, Ashley, what are your updates?
So our life has become busy too, Joe, because our garage door decided to break on us. So gotta love home ownership that just happened. So, and then we've got to fix some landscaping things here in Florida. It looks like a palm tree jungle in our front yard. So trying to fix that. But on the positive, I talked about my nutrition a little bit last week, and already this is week 3. Like I started on January 1st. So, 14 days in then, already seeing a significant difference in digestion and just how I feel overall. Now I have to figure out what it was because I kind of cut everything out all at the same time. So starting next month, I'll slowly but surely be adding certain things back in and see what triggers it. So
interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you like opening and closing the garage by hand? Like
not even that.
Like a caveman.
Nope, keeping the garage door closed. So I've done 3 workouts in the garage.
Oh, it's like so broken it won't even like track like up and down.
Yeah, it comes off of the track. And so I'm holding one edge of the garage door as it's crushing me while Scott's trying to put it back onto the track if we need to open the door. Like that's how broken it is.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a good time. Not to mention you're real sweaty after workouts because the garage door is not open. So, and it's warm here. It's
you're in Florida. You're not getting cold. It's not going to happen. That's my old Texas house. I don't think the garage door ever worked, which is interesting. Yeah. So, but it did work. It was on the tracks. I just had to do a lot of up and down myself, which was a nice warm up and cool down for the workout. So for me, updates, I have 2. One, I don't want anybody to take our podcast last week or, the one we've done about low intensity, zone 2, all these things to think like, don't slam it in one direction. Like, well, that's not our style in general. So, if that's like, hey, carbohydrates are kind of bad. Maybe we shouldn't have them. It's like, okay, let's be carnivore. Like that you went too far. And so I also don't want you to do any of that with the same information we're putting out here. So don't be like, you know what? Screw everything else. Zone 2 training for life every day, because that's also not going to get you exactly where you want to go. So we were just highlighting the benefits of one zone of training, how its efficacy in burning fat and how it can help you, but don't go too crazy and be like, oh, all this great stuff about zone 2. I'm only ever going to do zone 2. It's a tool in the toolbox. So I just want people to be aware of that. And also high intensity, while we don't do it all the time, and there are a lot of negatives to it, it has a time and a place. And it very much matters how you program it, frequency, and whether or not rest and recovery periods are programmed. So just want everyone to be very mindful of these things and not take anything as like, okay, this is the new way of everything. Or else Garage Gym Athlete would just be me programming walking in zone 2 every day. But that's not what we're trying to do. Other than that, my other update is my garage gym is complete. And I have
for this phase.
I have one secret item. No, it's done. This phase, all phases are complete. I bought one secret item I'm not letting you guys know about yet.
GHD.
I can't tell you. No guesses allowed. I will reveal it via video. So if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, go do that. We're YouTube/End of 3, I believe is what it is. You can search End of 3 Fitness. It's not Garage Gym Athlete. It's the parent company. Anyway, go to YouTube if you want to see it. I might announce a little bit more about it next week, but it's way cooler to do a video. So keeping everyone's on pins and needles because I know everyone cares so much.
So we have to sit around and wait too?
Yeah, you do.
That's not fair.
All right, we're gonna have a meeting after the meeting here. All right, well let's get into the study this week. I'm gonna let Joe brief it because I apologize to the team up front. Just so everyone else knows, I'm gonna take this a different direction than the study. The study, all it did was help me prove a point, and then I'm gonna talk about a bunch of other stuff. And so, and then anything you guys want to talk about in the study. So I ill-prepared them for the direction I wanted to go. So I'm apologizing to them. But they are very well prepared for this study, but I'm going to let Joe brief it.
All right. So the title of this study was Effects of Testosterone Supplementation on Body Composition and Lower Body Muscle Function During Severe Exercise and Diet Induced Energy Deficit. A proof of concept, single center randomized, double-blind, controlled trial.
Awesome.
By a whole bunch of people.
Say that 5 times fast.
By a whole bunch of people. So what they did for this study, they vetted a whole bunch of people. It started off with, I think, over 500 people. And they whittled it down to about 50 people. And they split them into 2 categories, one of which they supplemented with testosterone. The other one they did not. And during that time, they had 3 phases. And the middle phase, which this was kind of crazy because of how big of a study this was, they put them in a 28-day inpatient facility so that they controlled all of their meals and they controlled all of their exercise, which they exercised about 3.5 times per day during the 20-day intervention. And part of that intervention was exercising in a military fashion while on a about 2,000 calorie a day caloric deficit to see the differences between testosterone boosting and not. The exercising, that wasn't very specific, but they did various different things like calisthenics, some conditioning, other things like that, things as you would expect in military.
It looks like they did some rucking,
yeah,
as well.
And if you look way down in this later in the study, it says they were trying to somewhat simulate Green Beret training or Army Ranger training, but without the sleep deficit, without all the other stressors. It was just the diet and exercise portion to see how the calorie deficit would go for that. So one was supplemented with testosterone, the other one not. And the results, which it was kind of funny why they would do this such a huge invasive study. The results to me, it was just not a huge difference. More of testosterone added more lean muscle, but they both burned about the same amount of fat. And that was the biggest takeaway, I believe. Let's see, what else? What am I missing?
Kyle, the people in the study, it wasn't military personnel. It was civilians.
Just to simulate. It was just men.
They were fairly trained. I think it was 2 or more days a week of regular exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So, and not obese.
There was also
it was civilians. It wasn't military personnel.
Yeah. So the 28-day inpatient phase was phase 2. So there was a phase 1 and a phase 3 so before and an after, that they gave certain limiting protocols, and they did some tests of it as well.
I think to note too, the non-testosterone people didn't gain anything, but they also did not lose any lean body mass.
Their lean body mass stayed the same. Testosterones went up, but both of their weight gain or fat loss was close to the same. They both lost a lot of fat.
Right.
Yeah. So why look at a study that they're going into a 2,000 calorie deficit. So what they're exercising to the tune of 1,500 calories per day. So just think about that in your training. How many workouts or workout sessions would you have to do to burn 1,500 calories? And then they put them in a deficit of 500 calories that they were eating, if I'm correct. So being a 2,000 calorie deficit in total. So they would restrict their calories and then also make them work out a lot. And so that should be, a recipe for losing weight, right? And it said they lost some body fat, but you would think that they'd lose some muscle as well, and they didn't. So obviously the cheaters are the ones who are taking testosterone. And I'm using the term cheater in a very literal sense. Kyle knows I like to give this definition. Cheating is gaining some sort of advantage over someone else, right? And that's why I don't like to call eating crappy food cheating, because you're gaining no advantage there in diet. But taking testosterone is cheating. It is giving you an advantage, whether you're legally taking testosterone or not. It's cheating in the form that I'm talking about by definition. So the cheaters added muscle and lost some fat. The people who did not supplement testosterone did not lose any lean muscle mass, but they added a non-significant amount of muscle, and they also lost some body fat. And that, I just wanted to highlight this point for a bunch of reasons, because what I want to dive into a little bit more is, how do we actually gain muscle? How do we maintain or gain muscle? And that's kind of the direction I wanted to go, because a lot of people are in this if it fits your macros camp, right? Well, this didn't fit anybody's macros. They were all off on their macros, and they're losing weight, and they're one group's gaining muscle, but that's probably testosterone effect, which I have a point on. And the other one, they added muscle, but it was a non-significant amount. And they're in this extreme caloric deficit. So what this shows to me is that gaining muscle, maintaining or gaining muscle is not as much about calories as most people think that it is. Now, I'm not going to say that you don't need calories at all, but if you want to fast, you could probably still gain muscle. That's point number 1. 2, it seems like gaining muscle is way more a hormonal in nature. That's point number 2 is, if you want to gain muscle, how do you signal the right hormones to make sure that you're gaining muscle? And that's another one of my points. So it's highly hormonal, and gains are not typically impacted by this other stuff. So you're doing all this other training, and your gains are not going to be impacted. A lot of people get worried about that here. People ask us how to gain muscle, what they need to do. And I've always told people, really going on for like 10 years, if your diet's not going to be perfect and you're worried about something like that, I need you to focus on your post-workout meal. Now, back in the day, that was just kind of like some bro science coming out of my mouth, but there happens to be some actual legitimate science that backs it up, and that's kind of what I wanted to discuss. Before I do you guys have any other points on the study or anything I've mentioned so far?
I have 2 small ones. The first, as I was reading it was this must have been a really expensive study just to prove almost nothing, which is kind of crazy. Like,
I don't know what, like, who would hypothesize, because what the direction I'm going is focusing on the people who didn't take testosterone and the fact that they had this crazy caloric deficit and blah blah blah. They gained a little bit of muscle, but not a lot. That's my point. Their point is the testosterone part, and I'm like, I'm in agreement. Like, who cares? Like, yeah, if you give someone testosterone, they're probably going to gain some muscle, but that also helps me prove my point of it being, highly hormonal and not caloric.
Yeah, it's almost like they were like, well, let's just start giving our troops testosterone and let's see what happens. And the other part was, if that really struck me, for people who might be taking testosterone, is that once the study was over and the testosterone was and the phase 2 was over, the testosterone group gained weight back a whole lot more than the non-testosterone group, and they actually ended up heavier than when they started it, versus the non-testosterone group was still under their body fat.
Yeah, jacking with your hormones gets dangerous. Dangerous game if you don't know what you're doing. Any other points from Kyle or Ashley before I go a little bit further?
No, I think you hit on the good ones. My one was they, maintain muscle mass while fasting too. We talk about a lot of intermittent fasting, and I think a lot of us at Garage Gym Athlete try that. So anyways, I'm excited to hear what you have to say, Jared. Let's dive in.
All right, so let's just get into muscle gain in general. What, Kyle, did you have anything? Sorry.
No, sir.
So muscle gain in general, like I was saying, it's highly hormonal. This study kind of proves that you could probably do it while fasting, and it also doesn't matter as much what you're eating. What does matter is kind of what you're doing with your diet, but not this macros approach. And so how do we, the 2 ways to really grow muscle is to boost muscle protein synthesis and limit muscle protein breakdown. And so muscle protein synthesis primarily happens through having an adequate amount of amino acids. Specifically leucine is the most important one. And so if you want to gain muscle, you need to increase MPS, so muscle protein synthesis, and you can do that 2 ways. One is resistance training. The second way is protein consumption or eating amino acids. So amino acids are very important, especially leucine, if you want to gain muscle. And so what this does, when you lift heavy weights, you activate a signaling protein called mTOR. If you're in the health fitness world, you've probably heard mTOR before. So it's a signaling protein that elevates muscle protein synthesis. And so that's one thing that you have to do. You have to do some resistance training, but then you need to have the proper amount of leucine in your diet to start to, activate, muscle protein synthesis, get your muscles to grow, all that good stuff. And so how do we do that other than resistance training? Well, you have to also eat. Like I said, it's resistance training and eating are the 2 ways to increase muscle protein synthesis. And eating enough leucine, it needs to be about 2 grams of leucine for muscle protein synthesis. And if you're taking whey protein as your post-workout recovery shake, then you're probably fine. A lot of protein shakes that you are taking typically have some sort of amino acid profile breakdown. And so you can get that from a lot of different protein sources, whey being a great one. If you're not taking whey, then you have to you'll have to ask the company or see if they have an amino acid protein breakdown with specifically the leucine content, seeing if it's 2 grams. I know a few of us are a big fan of Equip Prime Protein. I emailed their company because they don't publicly list their amino acid profile breakdown, but they didn't get back to me in time. Maybe I'll update like how much leucine content is in their protein. But other ways to get 2 grams of leucine, 3 ounces of steak, and 3 eggs. So just thinking post-workout like recovery things that you should be doing. I really think eggs is the easiest thing, especially since I work from home. So like working out and then having 3 eggs is pretty simple. I think that's exactly what Joe does. He has like 6 eggs probably, but that's a great way to get enough leucine. But what's funny is I also was looking at some other sources. This goes back to like the Game Changers thing. I watched some stuff with Lane Norton, and they're going back to this peanut butter sandwich, right? So in the Game Changers debate between Kresser and Wilkes, he's like, you can get enough protein in your diet from a peanut butter sandwich because peanut butter sandwich has 18 to 20 grams of protein if you count the bread and 2 tablespoons of peanut butter or something like that. However they equated it out. And it was true. That's enough protein. To have like 20 grams of protein after your workout is fine. That's whatever. But there's about a half a gram of leucine in that meal. So protein, the type of protein you have matters, not just the macro. So I like if it fits your macros, and we give macronutrient breakdowns, but you have to be very careful with these things. Like you can't just be like, you know what, I need 20 grams after my workout, so I'm going to have a peanut butter sandwich. It's like, well, you don't have enough leucine in there to properly stimulate muscle protein synthesis. So it's not going to work out. Like it's not going to be great. So I'm not taking a shot at veganism or anything like that. I'm just saying be very mindful about, because if you are vegan, what you would do is you'd probably going to have to supplement with a protein that has enough leucine in it. And so that's what you need to do. Anyway, you got to get away from this mentality that a macro is a macro. The type of macronutrient matters. And so if you want to have eggs, whey protein, or steak right after your workout, that would be perfect. So some other things that I wanted to mention going into programming, talking a little bit more about high intensity. So training at 70% and below has no real effect on, well, let me back up here. Well, I talked about mTOR, right? As a signaling protein. So mTOR happens from resistance training. Endurance training can blunt mTOR. So it can stop it in its tracks. But the dosing is what matters of your endurance program. So 70% and below in a bunch of different scientific studies has shown that there's basically no effect on mTOR. It doesn't matter. So if you want to go do your resistance training, get some mTOR going, and then it's always a good idea to do those things first. And then you want to do some conditioning after the fact at a moderate to low intensity, you're not going to blunt any of that mTOR signaling protein that's going to increase your muscle protein synthesis. Anything above that, high intensity, specifically zones 5, maybe the top end of zone 4, really 75, 80% and above, completely blunts mTOR signaling. That's problematic, right? If you're wanting to gain muscle or get stronger and you're blunting mTOR, the signaling protein that's going to elevate muscle protein synthesis, that's problematic. Am I taking another shot at high intensity training? I am. So if you want to go super high intensity and you're trying to gain muscle, it just, from a muscle signaling standpoint, it's not going to work out. If we're just looking at like the chemistry of all this, it's not going to work out for you. And so those are all the points that I wanted to make. So if you want to gain muscle, because we get this question all the time, I need you to really focus on your post-workout recovery meal. I need it to have at least 2 grams of leucine in it. And I need you to not do any high intensity training around when you're trying to do these things. So just don't do it. If you're like on our endure track right now, you'll notice like this week specifically, we have conditioning, and then strength. They're almost completely separated. And then if they are combined, which I don't do a lot when I program it, but if they are combined, I typically make sure that it's not super high intensity stuff right after lifting session, because I'm keeping those kind of things, facts in my brain. Like, let's not blunt the mTOR, but if you're not getting a good post-workout recovery meal, it almost doesn't matter, especially if you're the one who wants to gain muscle. So that's a lot of different information. I don't think I have any other points. It's just that, okay, if you're fasting, okay, it's probably fine. Now, there are some arguments about taking amino acids when you're fasting, bumping you out of a fast. I think that 100% depends on why you're fasting in the first place. So if you're fasting for more caloric restriction, basic health, take your amino acids, you're going to be fine. Yeah, it might technically bump you out of a fast, but most of the time what I care about with a fast is like a huge insulin spike from a bunch of carbohydrates. Even if there's some insulin spike from a little bit of amino acids, it's not going to be significant. So fasting is probably okay if you're being smart about it. Vegans, you need to be way smarter about how much protein you're consuming if that's what you want to do. And then if it fits your macros, not really, doesn't work. Like it just kind of doesn't. Like I think the study of them being the only like case of if it fits your macros was, yes, these people are at a huge caloric deficit. They lost a bunch of fat. So yeah, you can train a lot and not eat a lot and you'll probably lose some fat. But if you're looking to do anything beyond lose weight, if it fits your macros, might not be super helpful. If you're trying to gain any sort of muscle or strength, then the type and quality of protein you have post-workout and throughout the day is very, very important. And those are kind of my main points. You guys have any questions, comments, or concerns on that long rant of how to gain muscle?
Yeah, the macros part. So just to, I guess, clarify or pinpoint, when we say just because it fits your macros to not do, it's not saying don't count your macros, but it's saying that actually be conscious of what those macros are, not just, you
100%.
see these. Yeah, you see these Instagram posts of people as like, okay, it's Saturday, my macros for the week. I have all of this junk to eat because it still fits my macros, so I can have this bowl of ice cream with candy and protein on top or something like that.
Or if you think that you're going to finish your workout and have a peanut butter sandwich and be okay, you're wrong. Like, well, if all you're doing is looking to like replace the calories that you lost, you're fine. It's fine. But if you're looking to increase muscle protein synthesis, you're screwed because you had half a gram of leucine and you had 400 calories. Congratulations. That sucks. You're really wasting your post-workout meal by doing something like that.
It's almost like someone should do a podcast on food quality.
Oh, wait a minute.
Wait a second.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't remember which number that was, but yeah, we did a food quality podcast. We definitely didn't go into the weeds with this junk when we talked about it, but it does matter. And if you want to gain muscle, I think I laid out all the parameters on how to do that. And you can do it during almost any style of training. But high intensity has specifically been shown to blunt mTOR signaling. That's bad. So maybe that's the only one that doesn't want to do it. Now, the two other things I want to throw a caveat out there, because when I have these conversations, people think I'm trying to compare what we do, concurrent training, so a combination of like more endurance training and resistance training, to say only weight training or only bodybuilding, like only powerlifting, only bodybuilding. If you want to get really strong and only strong, you should only do powerlifting. Not arguing that point. If you want to get gigantic biceps and like a, six pack and like grow your muscles and quads as big as you possibly can, you should be a bodybuilder. You shouldn't be doing what we're talking about. And I'm not arguing that this method of concurrent training is better than those things for those specific goals. But if you want to be really well-rounded, gain some muscle, be strong, be fast, then yes, what we're doing is the right thing. And what I talked about here, how to gain both, is very important. But I'm also not arguing that concurrent training trumps a powerlifting program for gaining strength. But it does trump powerlifting for being a better human, healthier, who will live longer and be able to touch your toes and do a pull-up and all those things and breathe. Anyway, okay. Doesn't matter. We're going to move on. You guys have anything else? We can move to the topic if you're ready. All right. All right. Let's get to the topic of the week. If anybody has any questions about how to gain muscle, hit me up. But that's how you gain muscle. Now we'll go. The topic this week is downregulation, and I kind of want Ashley to maybe overall talk about, because you picked it. You picked the topic, why you wanted to discuss this, and then we can all kind of chime in with different ways we downregulate and what our, kind of thoughts and definitions are on downregulation.
Yeah. So for this year, Scott and I, moving overseas, and we renovated the house, and Scott is flying a new aircraft. So he's starting more academics, learning a kind of a complicated systems aircraft. I mean, the F-35 is, there's a lot of computer things, I guess. And then I'm not going to go into detail because I'll mess it up, and he'll just tell me how much I messed it up when he listens to the podcast later. So there's just a lot of added stressors that we had in our life. And we noticed that I noticed too after postpartum depression, when I can now notice when I start getting anxious, when I start get that actual physical feeling. And so we talked about just kind of relieving that stress by not just working out, nutrition and whatnot, but cutting certain things out and actually down regulating because our sleep was affected, essentially. So we decided that we were going to make this a priority in 2020, and we set some goals. And so that's why when we were talking about topics, I thought this would be kind of a cool thing to talk about, and how each one of us, do that or don't do that. Yeah.
And for all of our athletes too, if you pull up the app, you'll see EO3 elements. The very last one there is downregulation. And it's something that I really think that you should have some practice, but I almost take it for granted some of the things that I'm doing, Emily and I are both doing, because, we have kind of formed these habits that I don't even really think about them that much. So I really think it's an awesome topic. So I guess we can go one by one and see what kind of downregulatory processes or practices we have. I don't know if you can actually use that, or if that's even, I guess it's a word, but I don't know if you can use it how I just did. Anyway, Joe, do you have any downregulation practices?
Yeah, I've always been a long night sleeper, so 8 hours or so plus. And I've always, before I even knew what downregulation was, calmed down the things that I done whatever routine I had. Nothing was set in place, but now Liz and I will watch TV on the couch for a while just to separate from the day because we eat dinner so early. But every night I read at least an hour in bed, and that really helps to basically get me ready for bed so that I once I'm done reading, I can roll over and fall right to sleep just about. We do still have a TV in the bedroom, but I have adjusted that to very warm and turn the blue lights off and stuff like that. And since we don't pay attention to it and we're just looking at our books, it doesn't really affect us at all. Yeah, that's about it. Really, we just read a lot at night because the reading helps make us tired. And sometimes my watch actually thinks I'm asleep while I'm reading.
That's awesome. So reading, that's a great, here's where I used to have a problem. It's like, I'm a super let's be productive. And by productive, I mean every second you're awake, be productive. And so what I used to do, this goes back probably 7+ years. Up until I was falling asleep, I was trying to do something productive. And so I would be like, okay, what can I take an online course before bed? Let's do that. And I still want to do those things, but it's not good for me. It's not good for me to get all start taking an online course or class or something, trying to learn right before bed, because that my brain just will go forever, and it'll be hard for me to sleep. So I think these things are really important, especially for someone like me. Kyle, how about you, man?
I have actually always been a down-regulating champ.
Nice.
When I was thinking about this, getting ready for the podcast, I just thought about, even as a kid, going to sleep was never a problem for me. I am a human being. There are nights when, maybe something's stressing me out or something like that, and I have a problem going to sleep. But in the main, no, it's not difficult for me to downregulate at all. It never really has been. It just gets to a point at night where my body's just like, nope, you're done. And my brain is like, nope, you're done. And even in college, trying to stay up and study and all, I just get to a point where it's just pointless for me to still be awake because I'm I'm awake and kind of sludging through stuff, but I'm not really accomplishing anything or doing any good because my brain is just cut off. And so, but for me, kind of some of the stuff that we have talked about on the podcast regularly and what a lot of people say, keeping the temperatures cooler at night. And my wife gets mad at me when I turn the heat down at night, but I went and bought her a big comforter for Christmas to help keep her warm so that I can turn the heat down at night so that we can sleep well. Actually, something that we started doing recently is instead of watching so much TV at night, we'll actually 2 or 3 nights a week, we'll play either a board game or a card game together. And that just really helps instead of having so much blue light smacking us in the face all night long, and it gives some good interaction and, helps our marriage and all that. Well, she beats me most of the time, so maybe it's not so good for our marriage. But anyway, that was just something that I thought was kind of interesting. And I think that's helped me as well and helped her as well too, to fall asleep. But I read a book right before I go to sleep as well. I have my nightly routine that I do. I bring the dog in and make sure all the doors are locked and brush my teeth, all that kind of stuff. But I'm like Joe, I'm reading right before I go to sleep. So when I'm done reading, I set it on the nightstand and I lay down and I'm out. And I don't know how long it takes me because I fall asleep very quickly.
37 seconds.
Probably. Yeah. It's probably about that long. But anyway, it's fun to talk about because it's something I'm really good at. But I didn't, I've just never had a problem down regulating. It's
you enjoy our down regulation talent.
Hannah does have a problem with it. It's tough for her at night. It's been getting easier for her. But it's for me, no, just never a problem going to sleep.
Yeah, I've never wanted to crack open my laptop while laying in bed. If I'm going to be on my laptop, actually, I don't even bring my laptop in the bedroom, ever. But so I'm going to get in it, then I'm going to, okay, if I'm going to have to stand up and go to another room and use it if I need to, but it doesn't come in the bedroom.
Right.
Yeah. How about you, Ashley?
So we have done certain things pretty much all the time. And then we just started adding a couple things in the beginning of this month. So Connor, we also kind of have a down regulation for him. I know lots of people are like, let the kids play all the time and they'll sleep like champs. And he does, he sleeps like a champ. But around 7:00, we kind of turn the lights down low. We read to him, we pray with him and kind of set him up for a successful bedtime as well. And then after he goes to bed, what we have been doing is we both have Apple Watches and we put our Apple Watches on the charger, put our phones on the charger and leave them there for the rest of the evening. And we don't look at our screens anymore at 7:30. It's just kind of a thing. Of course, now if somebody calls us and there's an emergency, we can hear our phones. It's no big deal. But for the most part, nobody really needs to get a hold of you in the evening. And kind of what Kyle said, we try not to watch TV. If we do, it's maybe an episode of something. And then we both get in the bed and read. And we have been starting meditation is what we started in January. So we both have a devotional we do together. And then after that, when we're both ready, after we're done reading our books, whatever it is, because we also read physical books. So neither of us have Kindles Scott has a Kindle, but we try not to read on a screen in the evening. So we read physical books in the bed. And then right before we want to, head on the pillow, you're going to sleep, we do 5 to 10 minutes of meditation and kind of set us up for a good night's sleep, kind of rest, focus on your breathing and kind of just be aware of your body and how your body is responding to the day. And it's been really awesome. And I've slept like a champ since starting the meditation, which has been great. And then one quick thing to note, Doc Jocks are Dr. Allison Bragger, she said, she talked about light when you, like even as something as simple as going to the bathroom in the middle of the night. She said, do not turn a light on if you can prevent it. Now, obviously, if you're going to fall into the toilet or do something and you need some light, turn some light on. But we have implemented that as well, just so that way, if you do get up in the middle of the night, that you're able to fall asleep faster. And I have noticed a significant difference, but I've started that since we had her on the actually Better Humanology podcast. So that was, months and months back. So
yeah, she's been on twice. A lot of good information. Sleep expert. Cool. Lots of good ideas, tactics, and strategies. I guess I'll share my brief downregulatory practices. So I'm not like Kyle or Joe. I'm like a racehorse that has to be beaten to submission. But not really anymore. But this is how I feel like I honestly picked up a lot of these practices we're talking about borderline 10 years ago. Be out of necessity, not like, oh, I think this might be healthy. Let me try it. I heard it on a podcast. Like I had to find these things because of like just how crazy my brain just would not shut down. Had trouble falling asleep. Once I was asleep, I never really had any issues. But then just, interviewing all these people, reading, blah, 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 I learned a lot and so, we have a pretty strict process. Like I put on blue blocker glasses around 7 p.m. And so I wear those every night. Super cool. Look awesome. And so that blocks a lot of the blue light. I do have breathing practices. The ones that I use primarily right now is Wim Hof. I kind of vary between them, but I do have like a breathing practice I do once or twice a day. So the Wim Hof method, I'm actually just going to plug his app because they did a huge update and it's just awesome. I think I talked about it a few weeks ago on an update of this podcast, but before it was just kind of like, here's the Wim Hof method. Here's how you do it. Now in the app, they actually have like a voiceover that walks you through it and like actually has like a breathing bubble for you to follow the inhale and the exhale. And when you're doing the Wim Hof method, that's really important because it's not the easiest thing to do if you've never done it before. So I do that breathing. And then another app I use is Shift State. And then if I'm not using any apps, I just do box breathing and count in my head, which is about 5 seconds in, 5 second hold, 5 second exhale, 5 second hold. And so that's the box that you're doing. And you can vary that 5 to 7 seconds or whatever. So breathing practices, limit blue light. We do watch some TV with our blue light blocking glasses before bed. And that is kind of, again, out of necessity, this racehorse mentality I was talking about. For some people, that might get you jacked up. For me, for my brain to follow a storyline that's not entrepreneurship or fitness or whatever the hell else my brain wants to think of, is really, really helpful. It's really helpful for my brain to be like, get in, ingrained into some sort of story. And then, I'm not, I don't normally fall asleep to the TV or anything like that, but we'll watch something and it's very limited. I have 3 kids and we have a lot of crap to do after the kids go to bed. So it's normally like a lot of work. Emily and I joke about this all the time, is like our quote unquote me time is like 30 minutes at the end of the day because we like to go to bed at a relatively like early hour. So it's like all this work for like a 30-minute portion of the day where you're like, yeah, this is nice. Time to myself. But if I want to get enough sleep, I need to go to sleep right now. So yeah, anyway, that's breathing practices, limiting blue light, and all that stuff has been really helpful for me. I do watch TV, but I feel like that's a hit or miss. Like I've heard the whole like, hey, don't have a TV in your bedroom and don't watch it. But I mean, I don't know. Like you said, Joe, it's on. It doesn't affect you. Like it's never. I sleep like a baby, and it's typically 8 or 9 hours. So I really don't think I'm having any problems there, and probably because of the blue light blocking glasses. But anyway, those are all my my tactics and strategies. It's fun stuff.
I'm starting to downregulate just talking about downregulation.
Yeah, did I bore you there?
Oh, that's not what I was saying.
Yeah, it was. It's a straight hit. Yeah, so if hopefully that's helpful for anybody listening. Different downregulation. Oh, don't drink alcohol. If you're like, yeah, I downregulate. I drink alcohol every night. That's nope. Hopefully you've listened to some other podcasts we put out. But it's about the worst thing you could possibly do. And then
stuff to do.
From a more mechanical standpoint, downregulation is lowering your cortisol. So ways you can lower cortisol are like scientifically proven, like controlling your breathing, and also very low aerobic exercise helps. So if you have like a really stressful job and you get home kind of late, the best thing you could do to kind of downregulate, if you're not into any of this other stuff, would just be like go on a 10-minute walk, like at a very low pace. Not trying to get a workout in, just do like a really light walk, and that will help reduce some of the cortisol, because it's hard for your body to sleep when you're all jacked up on the Mountain Dew that is cortisol. All right, we'll get into the Meet Yourself Saturday workout. I think Ashley's going to brief it.
Ooh, Sally's Revenge. So for Sally's Revenge, you have a mile run followed by Sally style pull-ups. So you're going to do pull-ups to bring Sally up, the song. And every time she says, bring Sally up, you pull up, bring Sally down, you let yourself down. Then you'll do the exact same thing after you finish the song with push-ups. And again, so every time she says up, you're up. When she says down, that's when you're down in the push-up position. And then you'll do the same thing with air squats, followed by, or you can use barbell. Yeah.
You can.
Correct.
If you're a brave soul.
It's fun with a barbell. It's spicy.
Yeah.
And then followed by a mile run after you do the squat version of Bring Sally Up. So this one's a fun one. I really like it.
Yeah. Any tips? Joe, what do you have on this one? Can't pace it. There's no pacing it. But
It paces the song.
I guess you could pace the mile.
Pacing the run, yeah.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
All right, he's got nothing.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You're going to a cadence.
Yeah,
So
I love the workouts I created that you can't cheat. It's maybe the only one.
start scaled down, basically.
Yeah, play with the weights before you do it. Ashley, what tips do you have?
That was my tip. If you know that you don't have pull-ups, don't try to do it. Or if you're just starting out and finally can start doing strict pull-ups on your own, try not to. Do inverted rows. I remember I did this with a band one time. And for the push-ups, do knee push-ups if you need to. Yeah, it gets spicy, especially for me on the pull-ups and the push-ups. I know that's where I struggle. So I make sure that I don't try to go hard by doing strict pull-ups, because I know I will not finish the song if I do it.
Yeah, to be honest, I think if you can't do, I'm going to throw out a number there. If you can't do 25 strict pull-ups, you probably can't do Bring Sally Up with strict pull-ups. So, I mean, that would kind of be my like, oh, should I do strict pull-ups? Like, can you do 25? If the answer is no, then you should probably scale down. So, and you can drop from the bar if you want. The first time I ever did it, I tried just hanging from the bar the whole time.
Oof.
And a 3-minute bar hang or 3.5-minute bar hang is very, very difficult. We've been doing a lot of bar hangs in the program this time around, and on all the different tracks as like kind of a finisher. And bar hangs are tough. So you can come down, but it would be for a short amount of time. So my pull-up bar is really tall. What I had was a step
like
up
a box.
Yeah. So I would have a step up to where I could get back on the pull-up bar relatively fast. I think I made it halfway through the song, just hanging. And then after that it was like, okay, I'm going to have to step off. And so then when I'm down, I would like come down and like try and rest my arms for a second and then get back up. So my tip there is shorten, if you do pull-ups, shorten the distance to get on it, make it as easy as you possibly can. And the squats would go light. You may probably start with air squats. That's painful enough for most people. And if you want to try the barbell, just go empty the first time. And then if you think you're awesome, throw on 135. See what happens.
Whoa.
I said if you think you're awesome. If you don't think you're awesome, then don't try it out. I don't think I'm awesome enough for that. So.
Ugh, no.
All right, that's it. That's wait, Kyle, did you have a tip?
No, since we're moving on, no, I don't. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, I'm going to move on with my tip. So also, we forgot to mention there's a 3-minute rest between the pull-ups and the push-ups, and another 3-minute rest between the push-ups and the squats.
Jeez, Ashley,
no resting between the miles, but resting in the calisthenics. So don't forget about that part. You're not just moving straight from each one. Yeah. But what I was going to say is, and this is my plug for Garage Gym Athlete, which always comes at the end of the podcast, so I get to go first this time.
I might just let you take it in entirely.
If you join with Garage Gym Athlete, then not only is this workout programmed for you in our app, But we also have a link in the app to the song where you don't have to go anywhere else to get it. So we have the song right there for you. Everything you need, literally everything you need to do this workout and feel the burn and hate yourself. We have it right here at Garage Gym Athlete.
We try to think of everything. You know, the only thing that we need, and this, I think the app and the programming would be perfect, is like a timer. That's a request we get often. The other request we get is, can I enter in my own stuff into the app? I don't care about that feature. I don't want that feature. If you want to do your own thing, why are you doing our programming? Doesn't make any sense. But the other one is a timer. And so I do wish I had a timer because then we could program that stuff out for people a little bit more. There's a rest timer. Anyway, I digress. Kyle, that was great, man. You should join Garage Gym Athlete for every reason he said. And that's about it. I'm going to end it there. Have a good week, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.